And welcome back as we continue to remember Don Schwab and one of those great banquets that was held in the last few years was just the remembrance of Don Schwab as a coach. Many of us got together. James Bazeron, I think, had the original idea, and it was a great idea. We want to thank James publicly for that. Got a lot of people together to hold a special banquet for Don Schwab. This was during the COVID days, and I know a lot of people were feeling bad. Myself, I was one of them. I think we might have all had a touch of it back then, but you just didn't know unless you ran off and got tested. But everybody decided to have a banquet. Everybody wanted to honor Don Schwab. So everybody got together, and you will now see what transpired on that great day here in Houma.
They asked me to sort of set the tone for tonight. And that's pretty difficult to do when you think about it. If you think about Don Schwab as a man, as a father, as a grandfather, as a husband, as a coach, as a friend, as a teammate, as a teacher, we could go on and on and on. So we're going to set the tone tonight in a different way. I want everybody here tonight, just close your eyes. Close your eyes for a second. When was the first time that you met Don Schwab? What did he do for your life? If you're one of his children, you had a recollection of him somewhere at an early age. What did he mean to you growing up? Nancy, when was the first time you met Don Schwab? What was he like? To all of the players out there, and there's quite a few, what did he mean in your life? He worked 5 years for us at HTV. I know what he meant to us. He was that calming effect. We were young, just starting out, had a few years behind us. I know we look a little old now, but he was the calming effect. He's where I learned the phrase, kill them with kindness. Somebody's ruffling your feathers a little bit, take a deep breath, kill them with kindness. But I think the testament to Don is the diversity of people in this room. White collar, blue collar, people a little up on the status symbol, depending on how you look at it. But Don can get along with anybody. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what you do. That really doesn't matter to Don. You might have heard it in the interview when Don was running for parish president. He told everybody that worked for him, you do anything illegal, you're gone. I don't care who you are. That's sort of how he's led his life. With dignity, honesty, integrity, and he's been just like a father figure to so many. And the funny thing, when we had this committee and we're talking, and I'm listening to Coach Rod, who coached with you for years, Coach Rod looks at you like a father figure. And a lot of your coaches look up to you like a father figure. And I think that's the importance of what we're doing tonight. I want to call James Bazeron up because James had this idea. We have a committee, we'll get to that in a second, but James is the one that came up with this, and he called us all together one day, and we got to give credit where credit is due, and we had a little luncheon, and everything started from that point. So James Bazeron is going to say a few words.
Thank you. Oh, what a group here tonight. About a little over a year ago, Don was having some issues with his knees. And about a year, 6 months to a year? And my niece, Katie, told me how hard of a time he was having. So idea popped in my mind, let's have a night for Don. So here we are. 1976, Don gave me a shot hired me at H.L. Bourgeois. 5 years, best of my life. We had a great coaching staff. I hit the mother load because I had a principal named L.P. Baudouin, who we loved. He's here. Where are you, L.P.? And Mrs. Chasson showed up, and Mr. Heigl showed up tonight. Unbelievable. Yeah, 92 years old. So I was thinking that once our committee got together, and Amos, Percy, Martin, Rod, let's see, who else? I'm missing somebody. Shake, Dean, and Billy. That was our committee. But let me tell you something. Everything we did, we got a phone call from Nancy. I'm just telling you, Nancy was involved with this. At DP, very involved. So, thank y'all for all coming tonight. I have two stories to say about Don. One was life-threatening, and the other one was a life lesson. Martin wants me to tell this story, so I'll tell it. We're on our way back from South Lafourche, all-district meeting. So I was a rookie that year, and I was constantly being told, get this badge, do this badge, and I did. And Danny Claymore, I think you got off easy because you were football. I was baseball. So. Anyway, we're on our way back. Don's not drinking. We're all drinking. He's driving. So he says, Bash, give me a beer. I said, Don, why don't you get it yourself? Wrong words. Wrong words. He pulls off the road. Now, we're on our way back. If you've ever been to Golden Meadow, you know where the bayou is, to your right. Doors fly open. One Don gets out. He was past Rod in the front. Don got out. Before you know it, Don have my hands. Rod has my feet. And they walking me over to the bayou. And to this day, Buzzy was yelling, don't throw him in. I think Claymore will say, go ahead, throw him in. One, they were swinging me over the water. And I hear, I think Don was saying, you gonna get me a beer? One. You gonna get me a beer? Two. I said, yes, whatever you want. They dropped me. They didn't put me down, they dropped me. So everybody gets back in the car. I closed the door, I said, Don, how many you want? So that was a life-threatening. This story, I'll tell real quick, was a lesson in life that he taught me. I'm not going to try to get too emotional, but we're on our way to baseball teams, on the way to Thibodeau. Had a little issue on the bus. I decided to sit two of my best players. So I went to both of them before the game. They had a problem. It was nothing major. But I said, fellas, I can't have that on the way to the ball game. We were playing Thibodeau, and we should have beat them easy, but we're in the 5th inning. So I decided, they might learn their lesson, I'm going to put them in the game. I went to them, and I said, go ahead, go in the ball game. One of them said, no. You said, I'm not playing. And I got upset. And I said, well, if you don't want to play, go sit in the stands. And he did. So that night I didn't sleep much, hardly at all. Got to school that day and I got a call. Don wanted to see me in his office. So I'm in the athletic building. So I go back there and I hear someone talking in his office, and I waited a minute. Then I knocked on the door after waiting a second. He knew who was there. He said, come on in, coach. I went in. Don and the coach, the player that didn't want to go in the ball game, or said he wasn't going in the game, was sitting there. And Don looked at me, and he said, Coach, you two guys have something to talk about. Now, to this day, I don't know how I would have handled that because I was wrong. Totally wrong. In the 5th inning, I didn't stand behind my word as a coach. Life lesson. Don took me to that without me having to do anything. Thank you. Winning, losing doesn't matter. Your word. Thank you.
Hey, James, you think you could get me and Don a beer while you're going back there, if you don't mind? Hey, and while you're at it, get Don Rodrigue one, too. But no, seriously, I do have a beer. I don't normally drink on TV, but I want to offer a toast right now to Don and Nancy and the entire family. For everybody, if you don't have something, just put your hand up. Here's to Don Schwab, and just a little story when Don was leaving HTV. He gave me his old Rolodex. And when we were planning this party, I started going through it to see who we could invite. Unfortunately, not many people were left on that list, and John McKithen was not available either. So here's the Don Schwab, everybody. Now, I want to bring up Lonnie Thibodeau before we bring on the parish president who's here tonight, Gordy Dove. Lonnie, I know through all the game of the weeks and everything we did, Don was like a father figure to you two.
Yeah, he was. And again, I want to thank the committee for bringing me into this loop and having me involved with this. And kind of in keeping with something what Coach Bergeron just said, is when I got to HL Bourgeois in 1975, my father had died a couple years ago. I'm a little scared kid, scared of his own shadow, from Oakshire, don't know nobody, scared of anybody and everybody, including myself. I needed a father figure. I am here 45 years later to point him out to you right now. Where would I be, my life, my career, my wife, who I met 40 years ago this week, without that man right there? Don Schwab, that man. But show a little more love. Coach Rod, Gray False, who's here, James Bergeron, those other coaches from Bourgeois, Danny Claymore, the great late Buzzy Sullivan, John Lucas, all of them too. I needed a father, and they were my father, especially him. Especially him. And isn't it so cool that we have a benevolent God who allowed me, I'm not preaching, just sounds like it, but that we have a God that allowed my career path to go in such a way where just a few short years later, he and I are announcing football games together on television. That goes on for years. And at the 40-year mark, 40 years of announcing football, I retire. The last play I ever called, my son was on the field for Vanderbilt 3-4 years ago. I said, I'm done. I'm going to end my career when my son ends his playing career. 2 years later, I get a phone call. Network wants to do this live feed, high school football, blah, blah, blah. I go to my son. I said, I promised I would never do this again because I wanted to finish my career with you. He said, Dad, I don't care. I don't care. If you want to announce again, announce. Here's the cool part of the story. Eric Ritchie, who worked with all of us at HTV 30 years ago, was the executive producer, and he says, Lonnie, I want you to executive produce, and I want you to be play-by-play. I went, okay, cool. Okay, who's going to do color? And him on the other end of the phone in New Orleans and me and Houma in my office at the exact same time said, Schwab. We both said it together, Schwab. He goes, you want him? I went, yes. I don't want to do this unless I do it with him. And it worked out. So all those years later, we came back together, 40 or so years after we first met, and he taught me lessons about life like Coach Berger was talking about. We had that opportunity to work together again. And what was really cool, Coach Rod, you got to do some games. There was a game that me, Rod, and Schwab all did together a couple years ago. God, in my life, going back to the 15-year-old scared little kid from Oakshire, life don't get better than that. It doesn't. It doesn't. These are heroes to me. And I'm sitting on the other end of a microphone with these guys doing what I love, that God, for some weird reason, gave me an ability to do, although I was a scared little kid. And these guys who I admire because they're second fathers to me. I grew up without one. So they're the surrogates. They're the ones that helped raise me. Thank you. Thank you for my life. Thank you for my career. Thank you.
All right. We're going to call the parish president up, Gordon Dove, to do a proclamation. But we did miss a dignitary that I want to recognize. Where's Ruffin Rodriguez at? Raise your hand, Ruff. Stand up, Ruffin. I tell you what, that's a dignitary. All right, so we're going to bring up the current parish president to honor one of our past parish presidents. So.
Of course, it's my honor and pleasure to present a proclamation on behalf of Don Schwab. Good friend of mine. I've made quite a few football games with him, and I always call it his gang because it was his gang. And, you know, Don took Terrebonne Parish as parish president through Katrina and Rita, as you well know, one of the worst hurricane to ever hit the United States. And you know, and I was a state representative at the time, and so I saw Don in action when, I mean, he took care of the parish. I mean, you know, at that time, Terrebonne didn't have a whole lot of hurricane protection, and it was 11,000 homes flooded for Rita, and he handled it like a coach would do. And, you know, and a lot of people don't know that. I was firsthand seeing what Don was able to do with this parish. Now, today we have a lot more protection, so it's not as difficult, even though it is. So with that, his family put together a lot about him, so I'm gonna basically read it off, and this is a proclamation with the key to the parish and city, though he already had it because he was a parish president for 4 years. And if I add up right, he probably handled over $1 billion while he was parish president, especially during the Rita Katrina and his 4 years running this parish. So with that, I'm gonna basically read off. Whereas Don Schwab was born on April 6, 1943, during the war, on Trail Plantation in Libertyville, Louisiana, better known as Shoepick. Whereas Don graduated from Thibodeau High School in 1962, where he was an all-state running back. Whereas after high school, Don signed on with the Louisiana State University, where he led the team in rushing yards in both 1963 and 1964, and also led the Southeastern Conference in rushing yards in 1964. Whereas he played in 1963 Bluebonnet Bowl, the 1964 Sugar Bowl, and the 1965 Cotton Bowl. Whereas in 1968, Coach Schwab led Sam Barth boys in New Orleans to the Class B Louisiana State Championship game. Whereas Coach Schwab won multiple district Coach of the Year honors as head coach of the H.L. Bourgeois High School and Vanderbilt Catholic High School, and also served as assistant coach at Nicholls State University. And whereas Don Schwab served as office manager at HTV Television from 1991 to 95, and served as an analyst for many of the high school football telecasts. Whereas in 2004, Don Schwab was elected as parish president for Terrebonne, and the citizens of Terrebonne benefited from his example of leadership from 2004 to 2008. Whereas under his tenure as parish president, Don Schwab was a conscientious public servant, serving the people of Terrebonne with his wisdom and compassion for the people of Terrebonne during his leadership. And whereas Don and his wife Nancy just celebrated their 57 glorious years of marriage. Round of applause on that one. They have been blessed with 3 wonderful children and 7 precious grandchildren. Now, therefore, I, Gordon E. Dove, Parish President Terrebonne, do hereby commend Don Schwab for the service to the citizens of Terrebonne Parish and be thanked for his dedication to the people of Terrebonne Parish. Like I say, he's already had the key, but we're going to give him another one. And Don, on behalf of me, thank you for everything you've done, and Miss Nancy.
Thank you, Gordy. We appreciate it. At this time, Lonnie brought up the fact that Mike Detillier, who does a lot of, I'm sure you heard Mike on WWL. He does our Saints on the Bayou and Sports on the Bayou show at HTV, and he does a wonderful job. And I can't let Mike sit out there without coming up here and say a few words about Don Schwab. So, Mike.
Coach, we know when Martin asked me to come give a few words, first thing I thought in my mind was, first time I heard about you. And my uncle was the biggest LSU fan in the world. So I was a little kid. He's talking about Sugar Bowl, 1964. First integrated Sugar Bowl ever. You guys are playing Syracuse. Floyd Little, Jim Nance on that football team. He took my brother, who was 5 years older than me, but I was a little kid, so he didn't want to have to tangle with both of us, so my butt stayed home. Man, I'm still crying about that I didn't get to go. Next year, my uncle decides, I'm going to watch him in the Cotton Bowl. They play in the #1 team in the country, University of Arkansas. I'm going. At that time, you know, my dad's with an antenna trying to catch the station a little bit better on the roof, you know, trying to get it right. And we got to see that. My first memories. Then, you know, when I get in high school, you at HL. You know, you coaching at HL Bourgeois at that time. And, you know, Bobby and I, Coach O, we talk about this a lot. You know, you were part of that inspiration for us. Grew up on the Bayou. Got to play at LSU. What you've done outside the football world, you know, and that inspired us because we got to see it, not only from you, but also people like Mike Hillman, Ruffin, you know, and that inspired us. Coach isn't here tonight, but we talked about it during the week. Man, he said, Don, so much part of my life. He maybe didn't hear me say it all the time, but I want you to tell him how much he played a part in my life because you gave us inspiration to do. 3 guys from the Bayou, you know. Think about it, when we 18 years old, man, we just lucky to get out of high school, you know, at that point, you know. So I can't thank you enough for what you've done for this area because as a coach, you a teacher. You teach people every day on life lessons, how hard things are. It's not always going to be easy. And I appreciate that so, so much. One thing that always jumps in my mind, LSU's playing Oklahoma for the national championship. Nick Saban's coaching. Me and Diliberto, we at the Ye Old College Inn doing a show. I get in touch with Don. He's like, Mike, I don't know if I can make it. If not, give me a call. And who shows up? Coach, you showed up for us. Now, I don't know, maybe you had a betting tip for Diliberto, I'm not sure. Because, you know, at that time, you know, he was happy about it, but we were thrilled to have it. And I do know one thing. It's an old Irish saying that when you have the blues in your life, it takes away years off your life. You know, you can be sort of depressed about life, but if you have the blues, it does take it away from you. But there are certain people in your life that always brings a smile, always brings a laugh, always brings an inspiration, and you give us life. So, and we appreciate that so much. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Mike. I want to offer some of the committee members to come up also, but before we do that, can we give Amos a round of applause for the great meal that him and Percy put together? That's pretty close to a standing ovation, Amos. That's pretty good. There you go. All right, I want to bring up Coach Don Rodriguez right now because Don has so many stories, but you might want to tell him the one where you had to hide from Don one day.
Oh, like you said, stories. But my biggest thing about Don Schwab, and the word has been used already, is the word integrity. And his picture is in the dictionary under that word integrity. And he's got something that bleeds over to other people. And I can give you, Keith Fungi, you've got the T-shirt. Can you bring it to me? This is something that is insignificant to a lot of people. But this little piece of cloth is something special. And I'm glad Keith brought it tonight. And Keith helped me hold this thing up right here.
It's not very big.
It's not very big, and it's tattered and it's worn, but it only says H.L. Bourgeois. I mean, it says Bourgeois Braves, and it has the word pride. This T-shirt was given to each one of our players. Right? They wore that T-shirt as a freshman, as a sophomore, as a junior. It never left the field house until we went to battle, till they walked. Of course, as you know, all of our games were road trips. We had to get on the way, whether we were playing at Terrebonne or Central Lafourche or something. Right? And this was special. This is what, hang on, you can have it now. But this is the thing, how he impacted people. This thing you can hold. But with the word pride, it's not something you can hold. It's something that's behold in you. He gave that to 15, 16-year-old guys. He gave it to 25-year-old guys. It bled over into our faculty. The LP Bordelot. Everybody in our school had this word pride, and it bled over. And they knew when they got it, when they left the field house to get on the bus, to go on the game, it was important not to let the next guy down. How did we get that? Don Schwab. He gave that to us. And it's, you know, I can hold these glasses, I can hold this shirt, I can hold this flag, but you can't hold pride. It's something that's built inside of you, and it bleeds over to your teammate, to your classmate, to your teachers. He impacted a whole high school, and it wasn't for 1 year. It was a bunch of years. It was powerful without saying a word. He did this for our program. We were trying to figure out something how to motivate. Simple thing. How do we impact a whole football team? And we talked about it, We had a point system by running something, jumping something, moving something, and we'd all get points. He figured out that the lowest guy that might weigh 110 pounds, or the guy that weighed 250 was going to play on the next level, that everybody, and when he would give that 100-point club, 125-point club, those young men, those teenagers walked out of that field house with that T-shirt that said 100 points, 150 points. It was like Christmas to a 10-year-old. Who else could do that? Not too many people. Don Schwab did it, and it bled over into a whole school community. My best story ever, we play in Lafayette, it's pouring down rain. 2 bus loads, those guys get on the bus. Back then, you could do that in the 70s. We had chaperones and all that. 2 bus loads of Spirit Club members drive to Lafayette. It rains the whole game. Can't remember his first name. Todd Bashaw picks off a pass, runs like 97 yards. We're ahead. They're going to take the score if they score, take the win. And those guys, the track is full of water. The whole Spirit Club is all over the field, all over the track. Y'all want to know what pride is? That's those guys. That's Don Schwab. It was the whole faculty, the whole student body. Thank you, Mark.
What Don didn't tell you is that Amos charged $2 a head to get on the bus, and later that year he was seen driving a Cutlass Supreme. Sorry, Amos, I swore I would never bring that up, but it just had to come clean. Somebody else that you hear Don talk a lot about on the films we talk about, and Don is always one. Every time I interviewed Don, and I tried to get him to brag a little bit about himself. Eventually, we'd get to the point that he was one of 5 all-time at LSU to be the SEC rushing leader. But I had to pry it out of him. Every time I would try to get to where he accomplished something, it was work as an interviewer to get it out of him because he didn't want to talk about it. But one person he talked quite a bit about was Ruffin Road Reed. I want to bring Mr. Ruffin up, if we could, say a few words, and that's one of Don's main men right there, Ruffin Road Reed.
Don and I met at Thibodeau High, well before, like junior high, and from there we stayed together till we finished at LSU. So we've been together for a good while. But the person I want to talk about also is the person that really made Don Schwab, and her name is Nancy DeFatta. Okay? I first met Nancy where at the time we went to LSU back in the early 60s, that we were like, you had to, the class that we had was like, you had to like serve in a service and everything. And I was the head of the platoon system. And so I was like standing up front, and the guys went back of me. And in front of me was a lovely young lady, which was Nancy. And this is where I first met her. And my memory is not as clear as it used to be. So I don't know if I introduced Nancy and Donald to meet each other, and here they are together today. But Nancy was that's all Donald would talk about, And from there, like I said, Donald and I were together our whole college career and our high school career and that. So, but other than that, he's had a real successful life in coaching. And when you're coaching from high school the way he did and everything, you meet a lot of friends, a lot of students, a lot of players, and they become friends for the rest of your life. I was going to be a coach one day. but I saw how much money they made, so I went to the business world. But Donald was very well loved, liked his whole life through school, in his professional career as a politician. And, but other than that, they lived a good life. That's all I can say. He got 3 wonderful kids, and that's it.
Thank you, Ruffin. We appreciate it. I know there's a large contingency of people that made a long trip from Sam Barth. So I don't know you personally. I've never met you, but I want to give you the opportunity to come up and say a few words. So would anybody like to come up and speak? Where's Jay? I met Jay earlier and a couple of others. So come on. Just in. How you doing, Martin Falk? Hey, good to meet you.
I'm Lenny Betzer. I was with Don Schwab at his first job, Sam Barth. So I was fortunate enough in high school myself to stand between 2 legendary coaches, Johnny Altobello and your own great coach here, Terrebonne. Stood between them. That's the closest I got to any hall. And I said, uh-oh, here comes the football coach. I'm the basketball coach at Barth. But it turned out to be okay. Don and I became close friends. One year, he even entrusted me to coach the junior varsity football. The following year, he had to undo everything I taught him because it didn't quite work out. But as it turned out, we became good friends. And Don, I'm going to make this brief because at home I'm only allowed 25 words or less. So I will say that we became very good friends. And Don, you have 2 great assets. Your greatest asset, number 1, is your wife sitting right there, Nancy. And your second greatest asset, which is something you can't put on a flag, you can't put on a jacket. It's what's inside you. It's your heart. When he comes up to you and says, Lenny, are you and Gail okay? I said, yeah, Don, we're okay. Can we come over and visit? He wanted to make sure. We did, and he came over. So, Don, I wasn't sure if this was a testimonial or a roast. Either way, I'll put the roast list in this pocket. It's a testimonial. I did watch Don at LSU with Joe LaBruzzo and Pat Screen, and Charlie Mack should have given you the ball more often, Don. Congratulations.
Certainly open to some more Sam Barth. And while they're coming up, y'all come on up. I got to tell you, I overheard a conversation when we got here today, and from Dean and Billy, and they were talking about the over and under. And of course, I butted in a little bit. I said, what are y'all talking about? And Billy Brown said, I'm putting $25,000 on the over. And Dean said, I'll put $25,000 on the under. I said, over and under on what? How long it would take Don to shed a few tears tonight. So, Dean, it happened right when he walked in the door. You got $25,000 from Billy. Come on up and introduce. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. My name is Jesse Wimberly, Sam Barth, class of 1971. If you do the math, that's half a century. I know that's hard to believe, but it's true. It's nice to see you again, Coach, and your lovely wife and your kids. For 4 years, I used to hear, Wimberly, my little girl can hit harder than you. And so I finally get to see one of the girls. I'm not sure which one of you was so tough, but it was you? Okay. I used to hear that all the time, so I was looking forward one day to actually getting to see her. Anyway, with apologies to Wedge, Sam's name may have been on the building, but Coach Schwab kind of ran the show. He was certainly the disciplinarian around the school. We had this old intercom system with a box on the wall and a chain. So when we were cutting up, all the teacher had to do was walk on over there and grab that chain and go, I'm going to call Mr. Schwab. And you never seen more big kids scurry back to their desk and get nice and quiet because you sure didn't want him coming over there. You couldn't outrun him. You sure weren't going to fight him, So you need to have whatever he said goes. But he ruled the roost with a completely benign attitude, as you know. There's not a mean bone in his body. His discipline consisted usually of some extra wind sprints, or occasionally, and maybe it was just me, the tricep pinch. Did anybody get that besides me? When you least expected it, you come back. It felt like somebody put a vice grip on the back of your arm, and then you hear that. And you look around, he's sitting there grinning. But anyway, you knew you deserved it, so you took it, and that was that. I've heard several people say something that I wanted to say, and that was about the instilling of pride in us as kids. I've been a courtroom trial lawyer for over 40 years, and I can promise you that a lot of the grit and determination I bring with me when I go, I learn from this man. I tell people we never lost a game, but on very few occasions, we ran out of time and they were ahead of us. And that gets a laugh, but there's a truism in there. He had us so ready to go. We were prepared. We were confident. We had today what they would call swagger. Now, he wouldn't like that word. I'm sure swagger is not what he meant. But we were confident. And I was always amazed when we actually lost. And we lost very few games, but occasionally we did. And I always thought if we only had one more quarter, we'd have beat them. I really and truly believe that, because he instilled that kind of pride and determination in us. So thank you for that, because that's something that you can't buy. It's something you have to earn. It's something you have to be taught. On a more personal note, I had a very, very significant tragedy in my life about a year ago, and I was absolutely down, floored. And I didn't think I was going to make it. And my secretary buzzes me and says, "Coach is on the line." Well, like Elvis, he doesn't need two names. I immediately knew it was Coach Schwab. I mean, there wasn't a doubt in my mind, none. So I pick up the phone, and he called to comfort me and to talk to me. I graduated in 1971. So for you Hornets out there that are mathematically challenged, that's 50 years. He took the time and effort to reach out to me for 50 years and asked me how I was doing. I said, "Not too good." And he talked to me and commiserated for a while, and he told me, "You got this." I said, "Coach, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure." And he said, "I'm telling you, you got this." And sure enough, he was right. But that encouragement really got me up off the mat. And to think that he would take his time after 50 years to call me, to help me and to comfort me, says a whole lot about this guy, doesn't it? It's just amazing. And I'm telling you, because he said so, it was so. It really made a difference, and we love you, Coach. And if you ever wonder if your life made a difference, you can stop wondering. I promise you, it has. So.
You look like you could still play. All right, I know it. Raise your hand if you're from H.L. Bourgeois and Coach Schwab was there. A lot of hands. Raise your hand if you're from Vanderbilt. Okay. A lot of bourgeois contingency in here. And did I miss any schools? Central or Nichols? Nichols, absolutely. All right.
How about asking everybody to stand up and coach?
It's a good idea. If Coach coaches, stand up. Good crowd, Coach. Make sure we get a shot of that. Keep standing. I want our cameras to pick you up a little bit. Lonnie, were you there during the Delaware wing tee? Or? All right, so anybody else from Sam Barth would like to say a few words before I move to the bourgeois? Come on up.
Folks, you all don't know me. I'm Wedge Barth. I'm the oldest son of Sam Barth, who founded this organization. I've got to say, in 1963, I was in the service. I called home and Mama said, your daddy wants to talk to you. And I said, about what? Put him on the phone. He said, son, we're going to start a high school. And I went blank for about 3 minutes. I said, what? Because I was director of operations. And I'm thinking, more bathrooms, more buses, more drivers, more land. I said, Daddy, that's the craziest thing I ever heard. But he did it anyway. That was the way he did things. I came home in '65. This guy comes along. Pretty doggone good football coach. But I'm going to tell you his real forte. He's a practical joker. And I have the story to back it up. Coach Terrell was with us on this trip. The coaching staff at Barth was pretty tight. We did a lot of things together. We fussed and griped at one another a lot too. All coaching staffs do that. Don says, let's have a party at your house, Wedge. I'll get the crawfish from Daddy's crawfish pond. Okay, free crawfish, we can handle that. So we all jump in my station wagon and we haul off to some little burg down the bar down here. We get 5 sacks of crawfish, just poop, 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 poop. We get in the car, we take off, and we're going back to New Orleans, Metairie. We get just the other side of Raceland in that swamp down there. And there's people all over the side of the road with their little square nets and their kids and their cane poles, and they're catching 4 or 5 crawfish at a time. Schwab says, stop the car. I say, stop the car. Man, you're crazy. It's a swamp out here. I ain't stopping my station wagon on the side of the road. He says, stop the car. Okay. We pull up next to this little family, the man, his wife, and a couple of kids. Don says, hey, mister, come here. He said, where'd you open the trunk? Man walks in, there's 5 sacks of crawfish in the back of the trunk. Schwab said, hey, man, we caught these a half a mile back down the road in the ditch over there. That poor fellow and his kids, they grabbed all that junk and down the road they went. And we took off the other way. So I can tell you, when he wants to be, he can be one practical joker. Don, I know all the boys from Barth are just tickle to death to be here. You led us to great sights. I only have one regret. We lost the ball game. And now I have to live in the same community of the people who beat us. And I haven't left it out of my mind a day since I've been there. But a couple of them were pretty good players. We had some good ones too. Thank you, man. Nancy, I don't know how you stood him for so many years, but God bless you. Thank you, folks.
All right, before I get to a few HL Bourgeois and Vanderbilt former players, somebody who's very special to Don and sort of paved the way and doesn't get too much recognition himself, but he was a pretty good football player along the way. Even a better person along the way. And I'm talking about his brother, Jerry Schwab. And Jerry's here today, and I want to bring Jerry up to say a few words, if he doesn't mind. I don't know if you saw Jerry's old football pictures, but he could carry that rock pretty good. Jerry, come on up. Watch Watch the flag, Jerry.
All right, thank you. Well, I saw a gentleman up here earlier who had a little trouble remembering. I have the similar problem, so if I quit talking, I'm warning y'all, it's my mind. When you get to be 85 years old, you know, it kind of wears on you. I was a few years older than Donald. When Don was in high school, I was in the service. I left for the service right out of high school, and I didn't get to see Don play many high school games, except that I played service football, and I got a scholarship to Southeastern, and I happened to see him play in Strawberry Stadium at Southeastern against Hammond in one of the regional games for the playoffs. Then I saw him play in the finals against Neville's when he played right here at Terrebonne Stadium. Don has always been a great athlete and, more important, a great young brother. Every time I had a problem, Don was there to help me with the problem. I can't ever say enough about how much I love my brother. When I was up at LSU, my first year there, Don was a freshman at LSU, and he had a few problems in the nightclubs, you know. And every week, I was a freshman in law school, and every week I'd get a call, Jerry, can you come to the office? So I'd go to the office, and Don got in a little skirmish last night. So I'd talk to him, and it got so that where I finally said, Don, you think you might want to be a boxer? Anyway, he didn't want that, but he continued on with football and did a pretty darn good job at LSU. Don always had a short fuse. One day, I'll tell y'all this story. We're sitting in front of my office, standing in front of my office with a bunch of people talking, and some guy from Thibodeau came up and started talking to me and saying, my wife this, my wife that, and so forth and so on. And I said, pal, I said, you know, this is not the place to be discussing anything about your wife. And he got a little smart with me, and he pushed me with something. Next thing I knew, Don had some glasses on. He said, Jerry, hold my glasses. Bap. I often wondered how a guy like Don ordinarily give you the shirt off his back, do anything in the world for you, as you've heard from so many people tonight. When Don came to Terrebonne Parish, I was an assistant district attorney here, and somebody from the school board said, Jerry, your brother's coaching at Sam Barth, isn't he? I said, yes, he is. He said, well, we're looking for a coach to start off a program here at H.L. Bourgeois. He said, you think he might come? I said, well, I can't answer that question, but I said, I'll give you his phone number, and you can call him and talk to him, you know. And so they did, and without any further advice from me, Don was hired as the first coach at H.L. Bourgeois. Don, I tell you, you've been a great supporter of me and the family my whole life. Love you. Love your family. Love Nancy. And congratulations for everything you've accomplished, all your achievements. Thank you for it.
Thank you, Mr. Jerry. We appreciate it. All right, I see a few, before I do that, there's a fellow in the audience, okay, named Mike Pike. Mike, stand on up and come up here.
You taught me how to earn it, that's for darn sure. That's the whole thing.
Now you got it. Now you got it.
All right, so Mike, you look like you know what the story is. Could you tell us what it is?
No, sir. Go ahead. Well, all I can say is I lost my dad early in life, and there's some people that a big part of my life. Sam Barth was one of them. The Carpenter family took me in, and this man right here, it taught me everything how to become a better person. And golly, you know what? I got to be a Tiger too, and that's pretty darn good. You know it?
So wait, I'm trying to figure out the jersey. So did you give him that jersey and he's giving it back to you tonight?
I really don't know. Coach? For
How long ago is that?
75, I graduated.
Okay, from LSU.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Been hanging for that long.
Look, I don't throw anything.
And you were doing you were doing a little garage cleaning and you saw the jersey. Is that what happened?
I've been meaning to mail it, but this is perfect. I've been meaning to mail it to you, but this is perfect. Do you have a jersey?
It's a tough act to follow these guys. I really want to thank James Bergeron, Amos, and Percy Mosley, and all Dean Robichaud, Billy, all you guys that did this, put this together. It's a fantastic idea. Thank all of you. That's great. Really, really great. So I was in Monroe from 70, 74. I came home on 72 sometime around. I said, what's that building? That's a new high school. So I went to Terrebonne, so I'm thinking, a new high school? Oh my God, that's gonna cut the talent at Terrebonne in half. We're not gonna be good anymore. So I was kind of jealous. So it's like, oh, that's not gonna be a good idea. So anyway, I graduated in 74, and my wife goes to work at American Bank. She comes home one day, and she asked about the second, third day there. She says, I worked the drive-in window today with a lady named Nancy. Her husband played football for LSU. I think his name is Schwab. I was like, Don Schwab? That's who you married? I mean, she married him? And that's who you work with? Yeah, I know him, yeah. So this brought, Nancy and Jeannie brought Don and I together. I was raised with 4 brothers, but I really have a 5th. And I don't want to get emotional, and all of you people sentimental. And I know what he means to all of you. And believe me, he means everything and more to me. Yeah, it's been a great friend, been a role model for me to raise my children as he's raised his children, and as he's been a father figure to a lot of you guys and a great coach. And I remember when we first met all the bourgeois guys at Great Falls, Danny Claymore, James Bacheron, Don Rodriguez, Don Schwab, and Jeannie and I sit in the stands. We're friends, and everybody, all the parents are complaining, oh, he's always running the ball. Yeah, he's not passing enough. So, you know, all those parents that know everything, I'm sure as coaches and all, you know what I'm talking about. One thing Don has always mentioned through the years, the 47 years I've known him, you people from Sam Barth, he has mentioned y'all 1,000 times to me. How wonderful y'all were, how good, y'all had some good athletes and some really, really great people. So I want you to know he has remembered y'all all these years. And he's mentioned to me probably, you know, every 3 or 4 months we talk sports and football and all. He's mentioned how wonderful you people are. Thank y'all for coming. I have a few funny stories. In 1977, Don and I went to Yankee Stadium for the Major League All-Star Major League Baseball game. So I said, man, we need to let everybody from Houma and all know we here. So we made a sign. We painted a long sign that says, "Coonasses eat anything." So we got to the game early. We taped it to the facade, you know, second to where everybody could see it. So here comes the New York City policeman with the billy. Hey, buddy, you can't hang this sign. Oh, why not? He said, we're from Louisiana. He says, you can't put coon asses eat anything. Can't you say, like, go American League or something like that? So anyway, they made us take down the sign. but you know how we are. One night, we went to Texas Stadium in Arlington. You wouldn't believe that stadium is symmetrically to where every tree is planted and the parking lot is arranged so that no matter where you come out, it looks the same. So we went to the game with a few buddies and we had a few beers. So we came out the game, it's like, where's the van? Well, no matter what exit you went out of, it looked the same. So we did the only thing you could do. We sat down on the curb, drank a few beers, waited till like 6 cars left. That's us. That's us over there. Let's go home. That is a true story, I promise. Both of those are true. But anyway, it's been great. Don and Nancy have been wonderful friends. I tell you how much I think of them. Both of them, they're godparents for my children, so that's pretty much a compliment in itself. So it's great to have all you here. We're happy. Thank y'all for having it. You know, they love you, and y'all love them, and he's got a wonderful family. And thank you for giving me a chance to say a few words. I could sit here and talk all night about some of the crazy things that happened, but maybe it's better left unsaid. Thank you.
We have another gentleman from Sam Barth. Come on up.
I'm Jay Wielden. So Sam Barth had 165 kids in high school. We had a really good football team, great track team, good basketball team. Our baseball team was not good because Sam ran track at Tulane, and anybody who could run was off the baseball team and on that track team. So when we got to the mile relay, at the end of the meet, if we were within there or there, game over. Don Schwab is the best motivator I have ever personally known in my life. I ran at TCU for a couple of years. I was outclassed. Great track team, still is, but had they had you, they would have been at the top. We didn't have a tartan track. We didn't even have a, what was it, gravel, whatever the heck it was. Yeah, cinder track. We had a dirt 330 track, and Don would yell at us, Jay Wheeler, my little girls, they're like this. My little girls can run faster than that. The best motivator I've ever known in my life. And I've never forgotten it. When I was a junior and senior in high school, especially senior year, Don and I developed a relationship, a friendship. And I've never forgotten that, and I've never forgotten the motivation that you've given me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jay. We're going to move along, and in a second, I'm going to bring up Lonnie because I know Coach Buzzy Sullivan was such a big part of your life, and I see Coach Sullivan's beautiful family over there. So Lonnie's going to say a few words because he was on the ground floor there. So, Lonnie.
Thank you, Martin. Before I say that, there's a lot of things I've learned already tonight, but I think the most significant thing I have learned is DP, of course, was a great athlete, but Michelle and Christy, y'all must have been something, especially when y'all were younger, because everybody's talking about how your dad said you can run faster, you can hit harder. Y'all are awesome, so I just thought I'd point that out. Okay, Buzzy Sullivan, and when I talked earlier, I mentioned, that all of us for H.L. Bourgeois, those earlier days of H.L. Bourgeois, that's a coaching staff like none other, right, Coach Rod? I mean, that coaching staff, any coaching staff in my years at Nichols later, or announcing for Vanderbilt years later, whatever, that coaching staff is what everything else is compared to. And one of the people that I'm just going to mention real quickly, who's no longer with us, the great Herman Buzzy Sullivan, assistant football coach, head track coach, and of course, Miss Carol is here, his daughter Julie's here, Terry, his son I announced earlier, and he meant so much to my life. I remember there was one summer that he would come pick me up in Oakshire before I could drive. He would pick me up at Oakshire that whole summer and bring me to practice and bring me back. And I just remember those conversations I would have with Coach Sullivan. He was a great, great man. I miss him tremendously. And I will say, St. Francis No. 2 Cemetery, every week when I go visit my dad, as I look right here, there's Buzzy Sullivan. That is an awesome thing. Now, we'll mention Steve LaRussa's halfway in between, but that's okay. But my dad and Buzzy Sullivan, and that's a beautiful thing that within one line of vision, I get to see those two great men that played major, major parts in my life. So, Buzzy Sullivan, we love you, we miss you, and God bless his family.
Thank you, Lonnie. Well said. As I'm looking out there, I see another one that owned the company that Don worked for and helped out, O'Neill Mulbrew. O'Neill, come up here and say a few words. Y'all notice how I'm prodding people. Okay. O'Neill may even sing Don a song tonight.
I'm gonna begin by Schwab. I had heard of Schwab before I knew him, and I'm gonna just tell y'all a story. In the '60s, when LSU would be playing, my family, we were living down the bayou. We were down in Houma. We didn't have a whole lot of money, and we never even imagined going to an LSU game. But every game, there was an AM radio on the table at my house, and we'd listen to the ball games, the whole family. Daddy would barbecue or something. We had a cookout, and we'd listen to the game. And my brother-in-law played with LaBruza. He went to the same school as LaBruza, and I think he played on one of the, it was in Buras. LaBruza's family was in Buras for a while. He played 1 or 2 years in Buras, and my brother-in-law's dad was in Allfield, and he was there. So anyway, you talk about LaBruza. In the year that y'all won, you did the Russian title. I think LaBruza was hurt, and so instead of hearing LaBruza, we'd hear about this guy on the radio called Don Schwab, and our whole family knew that. So that's when I first was introduced to him, just by listening to him on the radio. But then later on, he came to Houma, and we had a little softball team down in Chauvin. They had a softball team in Berg. We decided to put the two teams together, and we couldn't get along too much. In some kind of way, I was trying to think of how that happened. Some kind of way, Schwab got on our team and became our coach. And the same thing you guys talk about. So after that, we started BWB. We went to Bill's House of Trophies. I think we went to Unico. We played for 4 or 5 teams, but for about a decade or 12 or 15 years, we had a pretty good softball team. Donald Paul was a little bitty guy when we started, and anyway, Joe Blanche is back there. We drank a lot of beer. So he was the manager. And I always thought that putting a softball team together with a few pretty good players, most of them better than me, but we had a pretty good team. And to keep us together, we needed a coach. We needed somebody who was just one of us, but everybody would listen to, because we all kind of had egos and heads and opinions and who should be batting third and fourth and first and second. And Schwab came in, and he was kind of we called the living legend. We teased him about being the legend. Clem was playing with us a couple of years too, Danny. And so anyway, we had a guy that could keep us all together, keep us motivated, and keep us winning. And we had a pretty good softball team. We played across the coast. We won a bunch of games, drank a lot of beer. Okay. We won the beer trophy. We won the beer trophy and the trophy. We played in Biloxi one year. We won the beer drinking trophy and won the tournament. And it was a hell of an idea. They kicked us out the Hilton. They kicked us out the Hilton Hotel. We could no. After that year, nobody, the Hilton, which at that time Biloxi was a big town. I mean, it was the coast. Most of us couldn't go to Florida, and so Biloxi was a big trip. Staying at the Hilton, it was a big deal. Well, after that year, we won the tournament. We had a party in the swimming pool, and they made a rule: no more softball teams could ever go to the Hilton again after that game. So, but anyway, so we played our game, and then later on, during that 12 or 15 years, they got to be part of my family. Okay. Like Dean said, they're godfathers, parents and then aunts to my kids, and so it's been a wonderful thing. But for about a decade, Schwab kept us together, and kept us playing good softball, and had a lot of fun, drank a lot of beer, and we love him. Okay, and I could tell some stories. We talked about it. Joe talked about it now about trying to tell a story. But most of them are rated R, so we can't talk about them. We can talk. I'm not going to say anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Where's D.L. Mosley? D.L., come on up. I think D.L. wants to say a few words. And then we're going to work our way back on this side. D.L. looks like he can still play. Amos? Come on up.
Good afternoon, everybody. Afternoon, Coach. Good to see you again after this yesterday. Briefly, I won't be long. I met Coach Sullivan, Coach Schwab at H.L. Bourgeois when I got there and all. And I always tell the story to people about when we met that coaching staff at H.L. Bourgeois. We had good coaches when we left Houma Junior High. When we got to H.L. Bourgeois, it was just totally different. Because we had coaches that didn't talk at you. They talked to you. And they took their time with you. Now, my brother Amos and Percy, that's another story. You see, I was quiet, but I was radical. And this man right here, he'll walk up to you, and when he come to you, you knew what time it was, you know, and you're gonna give him respect, and we did. But at the same time, he respected us. He respected all his players. He respected all his students, you know, and that's the way we came out of H.L. Bourgeois, you know. They had a good coaching staff. We had good teachers. I had another coach, let me mention him, which was Coach Sullivan. Coach Sullivan and Coach Lucas walked up on me one day and told me I was gonna run track. I said, no, y'all have me confused with somebody else. He said, no, you gonna run track. So I said, no, I'm not. You know, I kind of walked away, so Coach Lucas, he yelled at me and he stopped me. He said, Mosley. I turned around. At that point, I had to say, yes, sir, because I caught the tone. I said, yes, sir. He said, you're running track. He said, be on the track after school this afternoon. I said, okay. I left. I goes out for track where from down here to H.L. Bourgeois, I'm gonna run track, but I need a birth certificate. I don't have a birth certificate. I'm going through school all these years. Coach Sullivan put me in the car, drove me to New Orleans. We went there maybe 3 or 4 times before I got a birth certificate. So they said, well, you need to get it signed. Coach Sullivan said, I'm here, I'm gonna sign it. So that story, I became his son. And and that's how I ended up with a birth certificate, ran track. Not bragging, but I set the record at HF Bourgeois, but, you know, so I ran all speed. I was anchor man on the relay, and I was the speed runner for the 100-yard dash and the 220. So, and I think years later, somebody came around, another team, Jesse Miles and somebody else came in. They changed our record, but Coach Schwab, again, thank you for everything. Miss Nancy, God bless y'all. God keep y'all. One last thing Coach Sullivan told me one day we was talking. He said, David. I said, yes, sir. He said, you know, one day I think you're going to be a preacher. I said, no, I don't have time for that one, Coach. I said, well, I'm going to be a carpenter like I am. I'm going to draw blueprints like I'm doing. I'm going to do this and stuff like that. Well, he's not here to see it, but I graduated and I got my bachelor's in theology in 2020. So, thank y'all.
Yeah, and y'all can see Reverend D.L. Sullivan. I mean Mosley. But I want to bring up right now two of your former players. I know you respect them quite a bit, and they're on the committee also. Dean Robichaux and Billy Brown, come on up. James, make it 3 beers now.
Yeah. So, I didn't know I was going to follow Martin Foss, Mike Detillier, and Lonnie Thibodeau, all these professional. So I really started preparing for my speech during Gordy Dove's speech a while ago. So I jotted down a few things. First, I want to congratulate Coach Schwab. Impressive list of places you've worked. Sam Barth, Central Baton Rouge, HLB, Nichols, Vanderbilt, parish president. Man, you can't hold a job, can you? So, but anyway, just the big impression. Coach Schwab built a great coaching staff. I hope I didn't forget anybody. I'm going to go through some of the guys. Coach Rod, Coach Claymore, awesome. James Bergeron, Coach Sullivan, Coach Gray Foss, my father-in-law. Coach Daig, Chan Daig, who I still stay in touch with. He's back in Katy, Texas. You know, he's good. He can't make it over here, but he said he wants to send all his love to you and everything. Coach Dewey, Steve Dewey, and Coach Lucas, great coaching staff, guys that made a big impression on me back then. Okay, because like I said, y'all were like father figures to everybody. It's amazing, you know, 47 years and people still remember how y'all were, and you still remember the things that happened in the locker room. So that says a lot to a man, you know. And I don't have a lot to say. I'm just going to say one more thing. If everybody's in here has watched The Wizard of Oz, right? So the wizard told the Tin Man, a man is not judged, but how much you love, but how much you're loved by others. That's all I want to say.
Well, that's going to be tough to follow. You know, everybody here is testament to what a great coach and friend and family man Coach Schwab has been. And me and Dean were part of the very first team at H.O. Bourgeois when we got there in 1974 and graduated in 76. And we've seen a lot, you know, when we first started over there, we were commuting back and forth from Evergreen and dressing out in the women's locker room over there, going to the field. So we got, you know, had a lot of ups and downs, and our first year was, you know, really tough year. So we only had 4 or 5 seniors, and we played against probably one of the toughest districts, you know, in the state. But we did win our first game against Vanderbilt. I'll never forget that.
Sorry, Coach Spinella.
It was great memories, and, you know, the whole 3 years we were there, we made a lot of great memories. And, you know, I wrote down some attributes that I wanted to go over, and they are sacrifice, integrity, teamwork, inspiration, prayer, leadership, and motivation. And these are the things that Coach Schwab taught us. Sorry. It's, you know, he made a big impact on our lives, not just as players, as teammates, but helped us the rest of our lives on these attributes that helped us in everything we do. And, you know, the sacrifice, I remember, you know, he would always try to tell us those extra 40s would make all the difference in the world, trying to get through and play into the fourth quarter. And everybody I know who was an athlete or was coached remember those days when he used to talk about that. Integrity and sportsmanship, you heard everything today about that. I remember that. I remember on numerous occasions, we had some pretty rough defeats that we were expected to win the game. And he probably said this to a lot of teams, but, you know, the sun will come up in the morning. And, you know, the day will be better. The teamwork, what he taught us, it took everybody on that team to beat somebody. And that was very important. It's helped me in my whole career and building teams to grow the organizations. And I can't tell you, you know, what that has meant to me. Inspiration, with all the athletes, he was always inspiring to everybody, no matter if they was a starter or the guy who never was going to play, he inspired everybody. And I think that was really good. Leadership, I'll never forget, you know, as a senior, you know, he had named me and Greg and really Dean as a captain of the team in our junior year. And I remember going into his office and him teaching us what it took to be leaders and telling us this is what you got to do. Lead off the field, on the field, and how to do it. And I can't tell you again how much that meant to me and how it helped transform my life, the rest of my life. And again, I want to thank Coach for everything he's done and touched everybody here in their lives. I can see that tonight. In closing, when James called me about this, me and Dean started brainstorming. What are we going to do for Coach? Well, I'd like to have all the guys that were putting this together come up here. We wanted to give you something, a likeness of Coach Schwab, a bronze trophy.
Come on up, Coach. Come on up.
It's Dean, once you read
We almost ran out of room for all the jobs he's had. Like I said, he can't hold a job. But it says Coach Don Schwab, Sam Barth High School, Central High School of Baton Rouge, H.L. Bourgeois High School, Nicholls State University, Vanderbilt Catholic High School, HTV, and the Terrebonne Parish President. Great, Coach.
Thank you all.
All right, we love you, man. We love you.
It looks a lot like you anyway. But look, we got this bag you can put it in.
Yeah.
We're going to put it in the bag, Coach.
Yeah, show everybody.
Bag fight.
Anybody who wants to look at it later, we'll have it on the table over here.
That's beautiful.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, Coach.
Love you. This is from everybody on our team and in tribute to everything he's done for everybody and what he's done for our lives. And not just in coaching. Big impact in what we did the rest of our lives.
Let's get a picture while, she wants to get a committee picture while we're up here. Tall one's in the back. Don, hold your trophy for the picture. How about that?
James, get a beer.
Come on, Kurt. So does Don. Look, she's over there, y'all. Turn this way. Looks like a shot for the Family Feud. You got it, Kurt? Yeah. Yeah, come over here, Kurt. Look, I'm gonna get behind you. Oh, yeah. All right, send us 30 copies of that one. Thank you, Billy and Dean. All right, who's leaving their cell phone? This is valuable stuff. Thank you, Billy.
We finished our last game. It's a playoff game. We played in Terrebonne Stadium. We come home. Players get undressed. Don talks to them and everything. Coaches go in the locker room, in our office. And I walk in the locker room. The locker room is cleared. There's one player left with his shoulder pads jersey, and he is taking off each piece of tape from his fingers, one piece of tape at a time. Tears are coming there. Terry Hawks, you still here? Terry Hawks' brother, Jerry Hawks. He's no longer with us. It meant so much to him. He didn't want it to end. Why? Don Schwab. What we instilled in them. It was a heart moment for me. And I sat with him, and he didn't want to leave. Just one piece of tape at a time.
All right, Coach. All right, I think we have one more signed up before we get to some family members. Where's Coach Tony Melito? Is he here? Come on up, Coach. Time no see. How you been, Coach? You doing all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you. My name's Tony Melito. I coach with Coach Schwab at Vanderbilt Catholic. Don, there's one word that captures for me the essence of your work as an educator and as a coach. That word is connection. You have the ability to connect with others in meaningful ways. Reflecting on our coaching staff at Vanderbilt, I can say that I experience family. As head coach, you created a culture where I could grow as a person and build confidence in my coaching style. I felt supported in my role and had a voice in game planning. The camaraderie among our staff made my job easier. For example, I enjoyed playing cards, even though I would lose often. But for me, we were family. We were there for each other in the lows and highs of a coach's life. And the trust we had in one another was a byproduct of your leadership, of your ability to connect, and of your modeling religious faith. As a head coach, you're gifted in forming student athletes to become the best versions of themselves. And again, it was all about your ability to connect in meaningful ways. Don, I witnessed how you got the most out of our players. You coached with authority, you explained with clarity, and the manner in which you disciplined our players brought about quick turnarounds. You treated players with respect by upholding their dignity and giving them a mental attitude in order to face adversity. You are a master coach. In conclusion, I want to say thank you for making a difference in my life. I appreciate the opportunity to have walked this path with you, which led to personal development, professional formation, and genuine connections. A part of me will always be you, and a part of you will always be me. That much is certain, no matter what else happens. Coach Don Schwab, know that you are loved. Thank you.
Well said.
Okay, so Martin said some things earlier. He asked us to close our eyes, and he said, when was the first time you met Don Schwab? I tried out for football at Evergreen in the 9th grade. Coach McCarty, I made the team, but I had eye surgery. I had a detached retina in my right eye. So the doctor wouldn't release me to play, so I went to H.L. Bourgeois in the 9th grade. The 10th grade, I got released from the doctor, and they had sign-ups to try out for the football team. You had to go in the field house and sign up for tryouts. So if anybody knows me from middle school and junior high, I had long hair. I could reach back and grab my hair down halfway down my back. I thought that was cool. I mean, but it's back in the 70s. Everybody had long hair. So I'm signing the roster in the field house right next to Coach Schwab's office to try out for the football team. Coach Schwab walks up next to me, first time I met him. So you're trying out for football, huh? Yes, sir. Not with long hair like that. Okay. That afternoon, I went home and I told my mama, we got to go to town. I got to get a haircut. I like to put her in cardiac arrest because I've been having long hair for a long time and I wouldn't cut it. And I've been wearing my hair like this ever since 1975. First time I met Don Schwab. Talk about change your life. I've heard a lot of people come up front and talk about the coaching staff and so on and so forth. Talk about different words, about character, about motivation, and those things. That coaching staff and those 4 years of high school, to me personally, and I know to a lot of my classmates, was the best years of our lives. That coaching staff was amazing, second to none. It just left something in us that you can't touch it, you can't feel it, you just have it, right? So I just can't say enough for what Coach Schwab. I'll tell you this. Herman T. Buzzy Sullivan coached my brother, who was 12 years older than me, at Houma Junior High. My brother got scholarship offers from Georgia and in certain colleges. So when we had the tryouts, we were just warming up on the band practice field right next to the Industrial Arts Building. And Coach Sullivan walks up to me, and back then, and a lot of people do this today, when you first have tryouts, you take some athletic tape and you put it on the helmet. And you put the kid's name or the athlete's name on the helmet so you can learn their name until you know it, right? So the name's on the helmet. Coach Sullivan walks up to me and says, Ordon, huh? Yes, sir. He said, your brother Sidney Ordon? Sure is. You'll never be as tough as him. Motivation. Okay, motivation. The gentleman that just spoke before me from Vanderbilt that coached with Coach Schwab, we were sitting next to each other. And as the different speakers were coming up, I'm like, man, they stealing my thunder. God, I wanted to say that too. Man, they stealing my thunder. I want to talk about motivation from this coaching staff. The first time I heard Eye of the Tiger was in the field house, and Coach Don Rodriguez was running around the field house punching cinder blocks to Eye of the Tiger. As we were fixing it, of course, every game for us was an away game. We had to get on the bus and we had to go to a stadium somewhere Even if it was a home game, it was Terrebonne Stadium. It was away. We didn't walk out of our field house and go in the back field and play. So every game was an away game. I'm telling you, this coaching staff motivated, made us overachieve. I was 5'0" 100 and nothing, but was made to play like I was King Kong, right? That's right. We could do the little train that could, right? Coach Rod punching cinder blocks. But I'm going to tell you, when we showed up to the stadium, and it didn't matter where it was, if your mother was standing at the bus doors, you would knock her out of the way to get on that field, because that's how ready you were to play. Like, get out of the way, Mama. We got a football game to play. Like, just get out of the way. That's how much they motivated us and got us on that field ready to play. I heard a lot of talking about the early days from these gentlemen that came a long way from many years ago, all right, to pay tribute to you, Coach. My father was a non-father, all right? He was an alcoholic and a drunk, and he wasn't part of my life. So like many people that came before about a father figure, I was looking for someone to be a role model to me. Well, I found like 7 role models in that coaching staff, 7 or 8, right? So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. When Coach Rod came by and said they were planning an event for you, I said, by all means, let me know, just keep me involved, whatever. I ran into Mo to Amos at the SCIA Crawfish Ball, and he said, hey, we set a date. We set a date for Coach Schwab's deal. I said, great, when is it? June 12th. And I just looked at him. Weird look. I said, are you kidding me? No, June 12th. I said, that's my 39th wedding anniversary. But I said, I'll be there. I'll be there. And my wife is here, right? So, yeah. So I had my son bring this sign over. I'd like for everybody to stand up that was part of the committee when Mr. Don Schwab, Coach Don Schwab, ran for parish president. Everybody stand up that was on that committee that walked this parish. All right, so it's a rite of passage for me to bring this sign, all right, because we walked this parish and helped this man get elected as parish president, and he served us well in this parish, all right, and it's a very proud moment of mine to be part of that, okay? So, again, thanks to everybody that took part in that. So, real quick, we watch the film every Sunday, and one of the famous things and the real good things about Coach Schwab, Coach Rod, Coach John Lucas, Coach Sullivan, Coach Bergeron, Coach Claymore, every one of these coaches, as a position guy, you would talk to your players after the game. What happened on this? What happened on that play? What about the play right before the half? And so you would tell them, you would give them an answer. And they'd say, okay, the film don't lie. When we watch the film don't lie. So we went ahead and we played South Lafourche my sophomore year. That was their Bebe senior year. And they drove it down the field on us, and we were winning. And they drove down the field right at the end of the game. And they scored. So we go into the film on Sunday afternoon. We go watch the film. So we went through the whole game, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. We get into the fourth quarter. And I want to talk about compassion and love for people and love for players and respect for players. I heard somebody say earlier he respected his players. So I know the first time I met him, I know what he's meant to me. I know when I disappointed him for the first time. And I know when I disappointed him for the second time. Because on the last play of that game, they ran right behind Bebe. And I stood up. And I didn't hold my ground, and they scored. And when we were in the film study, right before that play, Coach Schwab turned the film off because he didn't want my teammates to see how they had scored. And to me, he had my back, okay? He had my back. So let's fast forward a few years. He's running for parish president. So again, I've been having this sign in my shed ever since we won that election, all right? And I told him every time the parish president race comes up, I was going to hang it on my sign on St. George Road in Shreva, and everybody would think, hey, Schwab's running again for parish president. And he's like, man, don't do that, don't do that. All right, so we were in the war room the night of the election, and me and Miss Nancy and DP, we were all sitting there, and there was 2 boxes left for that election. It was in Shreva, in my backyard. So we had totaled up the total amount of boxes and the percentage won at each box. So we knew what the total number that had reported was and what was left. And me and Miss Nancy was sitting there at the numbers table. And I looked at her and I said, we got it, we won. And she's like, what? How do we do that? I said, nobody's won 100% of any box. I said, and there's no way he's going to win, the opponent's going to win Shreva by 100%. And sure enough, the last 2 boxes came in and Coach Schwab was elected. And so that, to me, was kind of redemption for letting you down in Lake Charles and for standing up against Babay and allowing South Lafourche to beat us in that game. It just meant a lot to me personally to be able to do that. I love you. I love you.
DP wanted to say a couple of words, and any of the siblings or grandchildren, you're more than welcome.
First, from the bottom of our family's heart, we want to thank the committee that put this just unbelievably fabulous night together. James Bergeron called me about a year ago and told me what his thoughts were, and from the moment he told me about it, I was truly touched as to what they were willing and wanting to do to honor a great man. And I really, really, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank these guys for everything that they've done tonight. And I think that they truly, truly deserve a standing ovation. I've heard a lot of things tonight from a lot of different people and a lot of different stories, and it just is remarkable to me when you look at what it means to be successful in life. And there are a lot of different ways a lot of people define success in life. A lot of people think that if you make a lot of money, you're successful. If you leave a lot of money to your heirs, you're successful. While that may be true for some people, I don't believe that that's the success that is life at all. Success to me is the impact you have while you're here. And what is the difference that you make in other people's lives while you're on this earth? And if tonight is any indication from what we've seen, that impact that my dad has had on all of these lives over these last 50 years, then I would consider him to be the wealthiest man who ever walked this planet. I went about 6 years ago, he called me up one day and he said, "Although some of the guys from Sam Barth want to meet for lunch." I said, "Perfect. I've been hearing him talk about Sam Barth. I was too young to remember Sam Barth, and I heard him. I've been hearing him talk about Sam Barth and the people and the kids he coached and the administration and the coaches. And I said, man, that sounds great. When we going to go? What we doing?" He said, "They want to meet. They want to have lunch next Wednesday in Houston." I said, "What? Houston?" "Yeah, well, I mean, some of the guys are from Houston, some of the guys from Oklahoma. They all meeting in Houston, and so they want to have lunch in Houston. Next Wednesday?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." I said, I'm in, no matter what." Because he had spoken about Sam Barth for so many years, I really wanted to see what it was all about, really, what it was all about. So we, sure enough, Tuesday afternoon, we get in the truck and we drive to Houston, and we stay in a hotel room, and we just having lunch. We just drive into Houston to have lunch. I mean, it was beyond even a comprehension, but there was no question that he wanted to go to Houston to have lunch to see these guys these kids that he had coached. So I'm really excited about it and just anticipating the day. And we show up to this fancy restaurant, and there's 6 or 7 guys there, and I look at him, and I look at these guys, and I say, these really aren't kids. I said, Daddy, I said, I hate to say it, but I said, you look better than some of your former players. And so we sit there, and one of the guys that was at that lunch reminded me. They start I mean, everybody, you know, hugs and so good to see you, so glad you came, and they want to start this now. They don't meet that often, and they want to start this lunch. Let's talk about each person, where you've been and what's going on. Let's talk about where you've been and what's going on. I mean, they haven't seen each other in years, maybe. Some of them maybe 25, 30, 40 years. And the first question is, tell me, each person, you got some time, tell us what's been happening. And I thought, man, this is unbelievable. These, you know, they haven't seen each other, and they're going to start this meeting or lunch and talk about where they've been and what's been happening. And these guys who I'm doing the math in my head, realizing that he was only 21 when he was coaching them, and they were 18. So there was a reason why he looked better than some of them, because he was only 3 or 4 years older than some of them. 50 years had passed, almost 50 years, and it was, and I always knew personally from growing up as Don Schwab's son, personally from his bourgeois years, because I was, you know, old enough to remember, and I'm around those guys a lot to this day. Personally, as a athlete who was coached by him, with athletes that are here tonight from Vanderbilt Catholic, I knew the kind of impact he had, but that day it hit me. And it hit me because these guys were 50 years later telling him what kind of an impact he had on their life. And I thought, wow, holy crap. I said, 50 years later, these guys, some of them look older than he is, and still telling him what kind of an impact he made on their lives when he was a young football coach at Sam Barth. And it really, really kind of brought his entire career for me full circle as to what he had accomplished in his life as a football coach. And so I really, really want to thank the Sam Barth contingent for showing up. These guys came from as close as New Orleans, I think as far away as from Oklahoma, Houston, and Arkansas. Flew in, Colorado. Thank y'all so much. So, in closing, I just, again, I just want to emphasize that the success of one's life is clearly defined by the impact they have on everyone else. And the success of my father, and through his career, through everything he's done, is just been shown right here tonight in this unbelievable gathering of people who have come to basically give testimony to what kind of an impact he has had on their life. And I really, really want to thank everyone who's here tonight and everyone who's gotten up and spoken, and I love him to death, and he's been a tremendous influence on my life. He often would well, we ain't got much money. I said, well, money ain't shit. Excuse my French. I say all the time, the next dollar bill that you get is not going to make you happy. It's not going to make you happy, and I firmly believe that. And he and my mom instilled upon myself and my sisters what it takes to be successful in life. And success, again, is not measured in what you die with. It's measured in how you impact in the legacy that you leave behind. And tonight has been an unbelievable testimony to that. And thank you all very much. Love you, Dad.
Now you see why I didn't have to write his speech, and nobody had to write that speech. Well done, Donald. All right, I want to bring up somebody before we get to either. I'm not sure what order we're going to go in. We're going to offer everybody, and Cindy, is Cindy still here too? But, okay, we got to get to all that. But I want to bring up a member of our committee, sort of close out outside the family deal. Amos Mosley wants to come up and say a few words. Look, let me tell you. On this committee, Amos worked super hard. Amos and Percy getting this place together, cooking that food, and getting it all together. So even though he's a common denominator in a lot of the little stories that maybe went south, I think we need to let Amos redeem himself a little bit. Quiet down, Samson.
I paid my dues. That's right. Guys, most of all, thank all of you for being here tonight. Like I said, this started out a year ago just talking about what we can do. And James called me up and said what he would like to do for Don Schwab. And I said no, because nobody likes him. But I said, we'll try it anyway. No, I couldn't do that. But on a serious note, like I said, guys, when we started this, once we hit Facebook and put it out there, the first phone call I got was around 10:45 at night. Jay Willen from Sam Barth called me up and told me where he was from and that they wanted to be part of this, and he was going to start the program, let everybody know what was going on. Next call was Mark Carpenter and everything. From that point on, my first 10 calls was from Sam Barth, and it just started moving around. So we knew this was going to be an event. I talked to James, we meet, and I said, this is going to be a good night. It's on. It's all about us. It's going to come out that night. We're going to have good weather. It's going to. James said, but it might rain. It don't matter if it rains because we're going to be inside. We got this. Coach, everybody's talking about, like I said, the impact you've had on people's lives, which you have. Young, older and older, you have touched lives throughout this room, outside this room. There's people that wanted to be here tonight that couldn't because of other commitments, but they sent their love and they sent their thoughts about the fact that they wanted to represent you. You have a table full of family here that's represented. All around, all these tables are full with friendship. My brother and I, the committee, we never stopped thinking about what we was going to do, because when we put this together, we said we was going to make this happen. Only disappointing thing about this was we was trying to get Coach Lucas here because he was a big part in that transcend with you guys at HF Bourgeois. Coach Sullivan, his family is here because all of that was a transcend. Everybody worked together. And again, it goes to that word called motivation. It's all about what we can do. You were never an I person. You was never an I person. You was all about what we can do to everybody to get together. The best part about this whole thing was every time we seen each other, no matter where it was, when we're gonna go to lunch, we need to get together for lunch. We made it happen a lot of times, and sometimes it didn't. Coach Schwab, brother, Mr. Jerry, I call him Coach. Same way. We'll see Coach on Saturdays, fried chicken Saturday. And we always talk about, you see my brother? Well, we talk, we seen each other every now and then. So it made it happen. And everything came forward, and it was, you know, it was believable. But at the end of the day, Coach, you know, you have made one hell of an impact on everybody's life, even though you know, you was hard on me and my brother because you didn't like us when we was coming up at HF Bourgeois. But we made the change. No. I got the mic. I got the mic. I got the I'm gonna drop the mic in a minute. Yeah. And we had Coach Schwab and Coach Lucas. One day we was walking down the hall, and Coach Lucas, like my brother DL said earlier, Coach Lucas was just had that voice, Mosley. And you know, you knew the voice, and then he and Coach Schwab was standing side by side. He needs to talk to you. For what? We ain't did anything yet. You know? But that was the impact that came across when Coach Lucas spoke and Coach Schwab was standing right there with him. You know, the whole coaching staff. Mr. Bordelon, wow, he was right there. But it's not about them, it's about you tonight, Coach. When this came to me about 2 weeks ago, maybe longer than that, a guy asked me, he says, man, y'all must really like this guy to be putting on this event. I said, no, it's not about like. It's about love and respect. Tonight shows that the respect and the love that we all and the outside have for you. That's a continuation, Coach. Keep on being you. I love you. We love you. God bless you. And on one last note, I would like Dean Robichaud to please stand. This is all about Dean right now. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Dean. Happy birthday. We did think about you, Dean. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to take this time to say thank all of you for being out here tonight, the committee that put this forward. But most of all, you traveling guys, we love you. You put effort to be here tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Coach Schwab, we and I love you.
Dean, if you could keep a little piece of that cake for me later, I'd appreciate it. All right. Anybody else in the family before I, you know? There we go. My communications graduate from, she's getting close. I know, you're getting close though. Here we go.
So I always thought growing up that the coolest part of being Don Schwab's grandpa was that, granddaughter, was that he would always be able to get you out of trouble because everybody knew the Schwab name. But after seeing everybody show up tonight, I can agree with most of what everybody has said. My grandpa, he doesn't know much about soccer, but that was my sport, and he showed up to every game he could be at, and he supported me through that. And when I got to high school and we got to pick our jersey numbers, there was no 42, but there was a 24. So I was like, this is gonna be close enough, we'll make it work. And then throughout my cancer journey, my grandpa was there all the time, before surgery, after surgery, before treatment, after treatment, just through it all. And the teamwork that he spoke about, the commitment, the determination, the kill 'em with kindness, I got that a lot. But everything he's taught me has really stuck, and I know that without him, I wouldn't be who I am today, and he's been a huge part of who I am. And I know who my cousins are. They're a little stage fright, but they should come up here next. I just want to say thank you to everyone who came out, especially the people who traveled. I know it's kind of a far away, but it's been a really great night getting to see how many lives he's touched. And I know that extends outside of this building, as he is amazing and everybody knows the Schwab name. Thank you.
Beautiful. That said, you get to answer Amos a little bit, Coach. You get the microphone now. It's all right. Miss Nancy, you want to come up with him? Come on up with him. All right. But you might want to say a couple of words too. Come on up.
There's not too many men these days that step back and let their woman be first. And I don't care where we are, that's how he is. Yeah. He lets me walk in front of him. He steps aside so I can do what I need to do. And he has loved me so much that most probably don't deserve as much love as I've gotten. He really does commit himself. And integrity, yeah, he's full of that. And I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud of our family. And I thank everyone that's here because this was really a special, special night. I knew it was going to be great, but I didn't know it was going to be outstanding. I didn't know it was going to be amazing. I didn't know that so many people would be here to celebrate Don Schwab, my husband. My precious husband. Do what you gotta do.
It won't be much longer. I'm just hard to make words when you listen to all this stuff. I mean, it's just unbelievable. You guys and girls and Ruff and Rodrigue. I tell you what, I really, really appreciate what you've done.
Well, let me say one thing. I forgot. Hello. Give me the mic. Let me give you the mic. I forgot. Okay. The one thing Donald has always believed is if you want to be successful, you surround yourself with good people. And looking at these people out here, I know that he has always surrounded himself with good people. From when he was at Sam Barth to now. Everyone he's worked with, everyone he's been around are good people. And that has made him a success. That's all I have to say.
Now,
I might think of something else.
I like to just say, I thank y'all so much for coming. You guys from New Orleans and everywhere that you came, and I get to see you guys, and I can't wait till we do it again, okay? And it's just, we'll go to Houston, or go to New Orleans, but we'll get there. Go to Grand Isle if we want to. Huh? So I just really appreciate what you've done. It means so much to me, and it means so much to my family. I love all you people. Just best of luck, and be careful when you're going home. Thank y'all very much.
All right. Once again, check out Facebook and YouTube, and you will see several programs where Don was highlighted or he was a part of. And like I said, we can go back so many years with Don Schwab being the leader in so many different ways. But more importantly, a great family man, as was evident in the program you just watched. For the entire crew here at HTV, once again, we remember Don Schwab in the greatest of ways.